features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
What a way to start a sunset drive with Nkuhuma pride. And this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning from Juma Private Game Reserve. It's again another windy day. Now, my name is Taylor, and on camera with me this morning we've got David. There he is. Now, as you saw, we do have the lions, except we've got one problem, is that they're going towards the Juma pan. Now, I don't think the guests that are staying in Vuyatela have woken up just yet, so we're going to have to be quite sneaky as to how we view them. But let's hope Aubrey or Taxon, oh no, Rexon and Taxon wake up quickly. Oh, hang on, I'm going to go right forward because they're having a drink. I'm just going to go over this log quickly. It's a big jumping log, that one. There we go, that's a better view. Here we go, just stopping for a quick drink today. And you won't believe all the things that they managed to get up to last night. We had reports from Brent and Jamie saying that they heard a whole lot of commotion going on. And I believe that the lionesses attempted to take down a hippo. But unfortunately they were not successful. I think they bit off a bit more than they could chew. As we know, that young male hippopotamus that's in the pan, well, he's quite fit and he's quite strong, and I think he put up a good fight. Now, I haven't seen all the lionesses just yet. I've only seen 3 or 4. Well, is there 2 up on the bank there, or is it just the one? It's just the one. So we've only got 3 lionesses here. And I did hear a male roaring about 30 minutes ago or so. So I wonder where the rest of the pride is. Perhaps they're still on that carcass and where they were in that drainage line yesterday afternoon. But we'll go and do a bit of investigating a little bit later. But there's one lioness that's contact calling. So perhaps she is waiting for the rest of the pride to respond. Now remember, we are currently on a live safari, and we would love to hear from you this morning. So if you've got any questions for us, please send them through. You can either hashtag Safari Live, or you can send us an email, questions@WildEarthTV. And well, James, myself and Steph, well, we'd be honoured to really chat with you. And it's quite nice. It's nice and cool here this morning. So I think that these lions may be on the move for quite some time. But it seems as though they're going to make the walk across the dam wall. So we'll have to try and find a sneaky way to try and cross around here, which could be exciting. Well, how do you feel about that today? Hey, David?
That sounds good.
Do a little bit of an excursion and try and get around to the other side. Let me count the cubs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think they're all here. Right. Now, I think I can count all of the cubs, but we'll have another look when they seem to bunch up together. But Steph has finally headed out on foot now that the sun is starting to rise, and I know that he'd like to say good morning.
Good morning, good morning. And there, running off in the distance, was a herd of Nyala, followed by a very amorous bull Nyala. I'm Stefan Winterburg. Good morning to you, everybody. It's a blustery day out here. And, well, we've got VM on camera today. He's looking forward to the bushwalk as much as what I am. And what is our plan? I don't know. I walked out onto quarantine this morning after the sun came up. The wind is absolutely howling where we are at the moment. It is predicted to do this the whole day and bringing with it some rain this afternoon, and I think what we can see is this band of clouds that is coming in quite low, scudding in over the horizon, and will very, very soon, I feel, probably blot out the blue sky and blot out the sun for us. So, without further ado, I think we're going to try and miss those lions, which are not drinking too far from where we're standing at the moment, probably only about 200 yards or so, just on the other side of this thicket that we're standing next to. So we're going to carry on, put our heads into the wind, and see what we can find this morning. I must be honest, I had a pretty awesome evening. I came to the realization that what we did yesterday, and for those of you who are just are joining us now for the first time, yesterday we managed to follow a greater honey guide. And the honey guide, after about an hour and a half of chittering madly from tree to tree, led us to an African honeybee hive. And at the time I was very excited. I mean, I'd never successfully followed a honey guide in 20 years of guiding, or just less than 20 years of guiding. You hear about it so often, but it's so often not seen or not concluded. And I just want to say that probably from a filming point of view, or capturing it on camera, live and with an audience like yourselves, that was probably one of the very, very few recorded archives of a successful African or greater honey guide and human interaction. That's it's a profound thing. I've been thinking about it since I basically went to sleep last night, and yeah, it's been quite a nice thing. Very exciting, to be quite honest. Wow, the wind today is hectic. I don't quite know if it's gonna. It feels like it's storms. It feels like it's. Well, we'll see. We'll definitely know what's going to happen by the time the walk is finished. Alrighty, now we're going to send you back over to James. I think he's got something to show you. It sounded like he had an elephant, but the wind is blowing so hard in my big ears I couldn't really hear.
We have a little herd of elephants here, everybody. Good morning, first of all. I forgot I did the pre-show show, so I haven't actually said good morning to you. Hello. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Well, we have to remember now we're not in the pre-show show. This is very serious. Very nice. Hashtags for our live questions at WildEarthTV. Please do talk to us during the course of the morning. Here are some elephants. This one is very curious. Might be her until I just saw her trunk, sorry. That's the long floppy bit on the front, isn't it, Brian?
It is.
Yes. As opposed to the sharp pointed white bit that you need to watch out for. Yes. So it's a lovely morning out here. Well, it is lovely, but it's kind of apocalyptically lovely. There's a grey cloud. There's quite a chilly wind blowing. The sun has come up through some scudding grey skies. And I think we're in for a quite interesting day weather-wise. Just a tiny little breeding herd of elephants, 3 of them only. And they're completely relaxed, which is marvellous. It is Sunday, of course, and that is why the elephants are relaxed. They don't have to go to work today, Brian.
Yes. The day of the Lord.
Indeed. Look at the length of her eyelashes. That is astounding. I have never seen that before. They're about 8 inches long on the one side. And show us the other side. Come on. Come on. No. Right, let's just roll gently down the road after them. Oh. Right, apparently the lions are being slightly more cooperative than these elephants, so let's go back to them and have a look.
Isn't this just the most incredible view you've seen of these lions? Well, in my case, I think it's fantastic. They've decided to sit themselves up on the dam wall. Now, we're sitting in the drainage line below them, sort of on the other side of the big pan. And it's amazing how it allows for us to actually see them down below. It's not always an angle that you usually get. And it's really beautiful as they walk across this wall. So we're going to get a few more of the lionesses. Let's see what's happening now. Something's caught her attention. And I'm not sure where the other two have gone, if they're hanging back with the rest of the cubs. But what we may have to do is actually go up this drainage line wall and try and find a way to get, well, to the top. Because if they disappear any further west, well, we're not going to really be able to see them because we're so low down. Now, little cubs, you better be careful not to play on this wall because it's a far tumble down to the bottom. That's good. That looks like, is that little floppy ear sitting in the middle? It could be, more, I'm not sure. Like I said, I think that ear is going to heal up quite nicely if it is her, but we'll have a look. Is it? Yes, it is. You see what I mean? How I say, as soon as that swelling starts to disappear on her, her ear is going to go back to normal. And that is indeed our little floppy-eared girl. We're not going to really be able to give her the nickname floppy ear, unfortunately, because she's not going to have a floppy ear. And I hope we're going to be able to keep telling the difference between her and the rest of the cubs. Well, I'm sure her personality will actually just shine through. So we should be alright there. Right, let me just call this sighting in now that the guides are starting to drive. Good morning, I've got the Nkuhuma Pride. They're currently sitting on the dam wall east of Wildebeest. It's just myself here. I'm in the drainage line on the eastern side. It's just myself.
I'll be joining you shortly. I'm just opportunity more from the other side.
Okay, copy Rex, you'll be number 2. Here you go. Rex is coming to join us. Hello, little cubs. Here you go, going to say hello. And you can see them as they're walking. They're also looking and watching. And making sure they don't get too close to that edge. But they seem to be a little bit on the chilly side today. You can see how they keep curling themselves up. Oh, did you get your tail sat on? And I wonder what they're going to get up to today. Oh, that's beautiful. That is so stunning. Ideally, it would be really lovely if we had a blue sky behind us, but I suppose we can't have everything. It's just a privilege just to be sitting here with the Nkuhumas first thing in the morning. Sitting like a real prince, watching the birds. Couple of starlings that were flying around that are sort of catching the attention of the cubs. Oh, that's so beautiful. They can't help themselves but walk past and play with each other, whether it's a little tap or whatever it may be. There's a bit of blue sky coming out now. That's good for us. It means, oh well, I don't know. The clouds are actually moving in quite quickly. We will see what the day holds for us. Hopefully we get a bit of rain a bit later. You do not look very impressed this morning. She doesn't look like she's friends with any of her siblings at the moment. Not her playful self. Okay, what we're going to do now is we need to reposition, and I don't know where we're going to go up because it's a very steep bank here. I think we're actually going to have to go back around again. Or maybe we can find a little, let's see. Which way? So do we need to go in here? Okay. Right, David seems to think to know where there's a little pathway. Right, so we're going to go and find the little pathway and then jump on it and make our way back around to the lions. But while we do that, let's go back across to Steph.
Taylor's trying to find a pathway. We're trying to stay out of the window here. I tell you, it's blustery. What is quite nice is the fact that these white berries on the white berry bush are starting to get quite large at the moment. You can see there, they will probably get about double to 3 times the size, and then we will be able to eat them. But on this particular bush, and what drew me to it, is the fact that it's still got some flowers. That's as large as what its flower is, here next to my thumbnail. Tiny little things. but they emit a very powerful and lovely smell. Not quite citrusy, but not quite jasmine-y, a sort of jasmine citrus smell. I must be honest, very lovely. And I'm looking forward to these particular white berries. They come out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. They'll be ripe, and then every bush out here is just covered in them, and you can walk around and have your pick of what breakfast snack you decide to have, much to VM's delight. I know he quite enjoys his snacks. Now, what else I'm looking for inside here is any caterpillars that we can find that are busy eating the leaves of these particular bushes. Now, this time of year, early spring, as soon as there's this burst of green leaf color, is when the caterpillars come out, just before we get to deep summer, where we're just covered by butterflies and covered by moths. It's quite an interesting thing. Quite often these caterpillars display a wide variety of coloration, defense mechanisms, camouflage, eating behavior. They're all these weird and wonderful colors, and that's of course quite exciting for this time. But no caterpillars just yet. What we do have is a lonely Polyrhynchus ant. These ants here, James, we discovered, well, I was shown them by a friend of mine years ago, and I showed James this particular ant. These ants forage singularly. They don't forage in groups. They're looking for almost anything that they can catch. You can see that ant. A bit difficult to follow here. I'm just trying to see if we can stop him for you to have a look at. They have this sort of matte black color. And often by the local Shangaan people like Herbert, they call them lemon ants. And that's because they have quite a lot of formic acid that they use as a bit of a defense strategy, but we use as a bit of a snack as well, a bush snack. They have the most tart lemon flavor that bursts in your mouth when you eat them. Now, I'm not going to eat that poor fellow. He's just not doing anyone any harm. But if you were wanting a little bit of a breath freshener, or if you're wanting a little bit of a tart snack, or a mouth cleanser, I should say, these ants are lovely to pick up. Now, they have the most interesting nest, and I want to see if we can actually find it. Generally, they have their nests at the base of these trees, but what they do is they actually thatch the entrance to their nests. Yes, thatch it. So they take bits and pieces of grass and they weave this mat around the entrance to their nests, and that stops rain from eroding the edges of the nest and creating the sand, basically the sandful effect that rain will have. So they thatch the entrance to their nest. Now they don't forage at night time, they forage during the day. I'm almost sure if we just open up our eyes here a little bit, we will actually find the nest. Let me go around that side of the tree. I'm coming around that side again, Vim. Their nests are usually at the base of these trees, and because of that thatched effect, actually quite well hidden. But let's see if we can actually find one for you. I won't spend too much time looking. It'll be very boring for you to watch me forage through the undergrowth here. See if we can find one today for you. But what I did find, and another Polyrhynchus ant inside here. There's this giant land snail shell which has been stepped on probably by a buffalo, and you can see that inside it gives us a unique sort of look inside there. Now we find these shells lying around in the bush quite often, and they last for a long time. So over a series of seasons, they'll lose their coloration, and they'll also be bleached nice and white by the sun. And what usually kills them are the larvae of fireflies, basically. Glowworms, Lampyridae. The larvae are carnivorous on snails, and quite often will feed on giant land snails. You can imagine it's a fantastic meal. So what would happen is the larvae of a firefly is this spiky, vicious looking worm, crawls along until it finds one, latches itself onto the snail, injects the snail with a neurotoxin which disables the snail. The snail sort of becomes paralyzed. And generally what happens is the snails realize something's wrong and they sort of move to a bush. They then don't die at the bush. The firefly larvae takes a long time to eat a snail like this. So what the larvae does is inject this neurotoxin, paralyzes the snail, and then feeds. What comes out of that are two things. The female glowworm, so the females are called glowworms, they don't have any wings, and the males are called fireflies. The female glowworm will come out of the snail, climb up onto a bush and signal her, I suppose her desire would be a thing. They'd signal out to some flashes. The male that's flying around sees those flashes and then comes down to the female. They mate and the cycle starts all over again. Fantastic, eh? Anyway, after that, and with us carrying on into the wind, we're going to send you over to James.
Well, we are sitting here on the northern boundary of Arathusa, everybody, and we're looking into Simbambili. Shh, don't tell anyone, you're not allowed to do that. And there are some zebra there eating the fresh green grass on the firebreak between the two cut lines, or the two roads that separate Arathusa from Simbambili. Now, if you are a new viewer, welcome especially, and Simbambili, if you're wondering, is the reserve to the north of Arathusa, which is to the west of Juma, which is where we call home. It's all deeply confusing, but we traverse three reserves, one called Juma, one called Arathusa, one called Cheetah Plains. They're all completely unfenced from each other. It's just human property laws that mean we can't traverse everywhere we want to. The animals can come and go as they please, as these zebra are. And they are loving the new grass there, and I think they're quite a nice colour. If you look at the green around them and the swaying branches in this very strong southeaster. It has an ominous feel to it this day, doesn't it, Brian? Oh. And you'll find that grazers like this will move from termite mound to termite mound. And that's because the grass, of course, around the termite mounds, we know, is that much more nutritious than the others. And so if you were to follow them, if you were to track them, you'd probably find them moving from one mound to the other, grazing as they go. Now, James, you're wondering about the rain and how much we got last night. Well, for those of us who don't hear things in our sleep, no rain at all. There was no rain at all. Kirsten, of course, dreams of rain on a nightly basis, and she said even for her there was no rain last night. So interestingly, not even a virtual drop. There was some wind, there was some lightning. I must also tell you that the greatest noise in the night came from Wiam's room. It was nothing untoward. We thought maybe he'd been attacked by a buffalo in his room. That wasn't what happened. His shelf detached itself from the wall and came crashing down. Those were the only sounds of the night. You can see the wind is very strong indeed. The zebras are very happy though. The radio is completely silent in my ear, so either it isn't working or there's not much else to see. I'm going to sneak forward, Brian. There's quite a nice arrangement of zebra in front there. They're all grazing in a line, and of course zebras arranged in a line is very artistic, isn't it, Brian?
It is.
So artistic.
So wonderful.
So wonderfully artistique. There were 4 of them, and now they are afraid, and they are moving away. That is not very artistic of you, 4 zebras. No. That's it. That's it. That's it. Very nice. Look at us. Gorgeous. I must say, I do think on a day like this, when the sky is the colour that it is, it's not difficult for them to kind of melt into the bush in order to avoid being eaten by lions. And interestingly, at the moment, the lion, of course, we know, is specialising in devouring buffalo. They did apparently have a go at a hippo last night, but clearly failed. And the zebra seemed to be relatively unmolested. They kind of go about life, and the lions, other than for the very little ones, seem to pay them not much heed. Now, unlike those buffalo, of course, the zebra have got the ideal muzzle to eat the short grass there. You can see that muzzle just sort of moving away the bits that it doesn't want and then collecting the bits that it does. And then, of course, two very sharp sets of incisors on the top and bottom that help it to crop that short grass. Now, a buffalo is unable to do that. They do not have top incisors at all, much like most of the ruminants. And that means that they must use their tongues, and their tongues are just not adapted to grazing the very short grass like that. Also, I think quite interestingly, and unlike a goat or a pig, you will see that the zebra just sort of mow the lawn there. They don't pull the plants out of the ground. They use their very sharp teeth, and that means, of course, they leave grazing behind. Now, if you watch a warthog or a goat or an impala grazing sometimes, you'll often see them, they grab the plant and pull it out. And that, I mean, it has its other sort of ecological benefits, I suppose, for the system, but the zebra are rather good at maintaining a lawn. Very clever of them. Oh, now, Big Blue, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to put it out there to all of you. You say, what are those round scabs on the inside of the knee? Or it's not the knee, it's the sort of wrist joint. There we go, well spotted, Brian, on the zebra. Now, that on a horse, everyone, is known as the chestnut. And I was told once, and whether this is true or not, I'm not sure, that the chestnut in the fetus is actually attached, so the two front legs are stuck together in an attempt, we think, to stop the baby zebra or baby horse kicking too much in the mother's womb. And so the legs are kind of stuck together at the wrists like that. And I think that's what they're for, but if anybody has a better idea as to what they're for, I'd be very interested to know. It's definitely called the chestnut. What its function is, I'm not convinced. Oh, I heard a story like that when I was a very young boy. Of course, I'm not a young boy anymore, am I, Brian? And so it may or may not be true. Right, while we move on, Stefan seems to have found something small in a container.
I've got such an awesome surprise here for you. I have had to pick them up because they were running away. But I have two male Bushveld rain frogs here for you. Just have a look at this. Now, why have I got them in a little container? Because I didn't want to touch them with my hands. Frogs, we must try never touch with your hands, because we quite often have caustic compounds on our hands and fingers, and it burns the very porous skin of these frogs. So I've picked up these frogs without touching them, and I won't touch them. But what I do want to show you is share these little guys with you. That is a full-grown male Bushveld rain frog. And what they're doing is they are walking around looking for a female Bushveld rain frog, which is about the size of this dish. Can you imagine? So she's about this size, the size of this dish. He will then find her. If he finds her first, he climbs up onto her back, and he basically starts to give off a type of slime that excites the female to give off a type of glue. And basically what happens is she then sticks this little male frog to her, and for most of the season he stays glued to the back of this female Bushveld rain frog, and she walks around with him while he's stuck to her with a type of glue. Isn't that awesome? But just have a look at the faces of these. They are, for me, the single best thing about these little rain frogs. Oh, these epic faces that they have. They just look like little aliens. That is so cool. Giving us a nice standing still so that we can actually see them. So no bigger than your thumbnail. The female frog is about as big as a lady's fist. So if you make your fist, all you ladies out there, and you close your fist, the female frog is about this size. And this little Bushveld rain frog then comes up sticks on, she glues him, and she walks off and doesn't really remember that he's even there for the rest of it. Alright, so what we're going to do now is put them back exactly where I got them from. They were both actually walking around over here. You can see why I wanted to pick them up for you. You'll see how camouflaged that little frog is right there. Just have a look at the end of my finger. That's where this frog is. Very, very small. You can have a look at there. Half the size of my thumbnail, in actual fact. Alright, we're going to leave them to look for their female. Carry on with our walk. Bushveld rain frog. Yes. Send you over to James, who's got some wildebeest.
That is a very small frog. Well, that isn't, of course. Steph's little frog is very small. That is a wildebeest. And they often eat in sort of cohabitation with the zebra. These ones were not too far away from some zebra. And they too eat very short grass, which makes them able to take advantage of these sorts of conditions. Now, I'm just doing up my jacket, of course, because it's, well, it's quite chilly out here, I must tell you. Let's go forward a little bit. The wind is now really starting to howl in an unpleasant fashion. I don't envy Stefan being out on foot in this. Now, Brian has a very nice term for wildebeest, and that is, Brian?
I don't know.
Wildebeest.
Wildebeestens.
Wildebeestens, yes. Yes. I don't know why I find that funny, but I do. It's because it's Sunday morning, Brian.
It is.
And I'm very humorous on a Sunday morning, yes.
Very humorous.
Very interesting that two animals like the zebra and the wildebeest, which live in completely similar habitats, have completely different colours, skins, and seemingly are successful as one another. I do not understand that. I don't believe that anybody really understands that. Safe to say that there is more than one way to skin a cat. In other words, there is more than one survival strategy to living in the same environmental conditions. The wildebeest, dark black colour, no brain. The zebra, striped, seemingly slightly cleverer. Definitely much more aggressive. I'm being nasty about the wildebeest. I don't think they're any more stupid than any other animal, and their reputation for idiocy, I think, just comes from the slightly gormless look that they have on their faces. I don't truly believe them to be any less intelligent than any other animal. Certainly more intelligent than some people I've met. This is a very large herd of wildebeesten for this area. And soon they too will be calving in much the same way that the impala should hopefully start lambing today, because Brian predicted it today, didn't you, Brian? Yes. Sunday, the 13th of November, 2016.
Impala Lamb Day.
Impala Lamb Day. ILD. Very, very similar kind of strategy to the zebra. And they're in excellent condition. Now, we've been banging on, or I've been banging on about how terribly the buffalo have managed to get through the drought and how they failed to take advantage of the new grass. These guys have quite the opposite. None of them look vaguely thin. They all look skinny and fat and very well indeed. See, none of them have their hips showing. There's one migrating. You see that, Brian? Mm-hmm. Loving the grass. And that one's probably just about a year old. And the year-old one will have horns like that, of course. And much like with the impala, they're relatively easy to age because they are seasonally born. So So they're born around about this time, so if you see one that is slightly smaller than an adult around about this time, you know it's about a year old. There is no mystique to understanding the age of a wildebeest calf, Brian.
No.
But to understanding the age of a wildebeest adult, well, that is mysterious. Once they get to adult size, it's very difficult. That's probably a 2-year-old. See, the horn's not quite yet fully developed, but almost there. It also seems to have some issue with its tail. It is sticking out to the behind. Now we're nearly at the very far western corner of Arathusa, from which we will turn south and then down towards Windmill Pan. Now the point of this, of course, is that we are still just quickly checking whether we have communications with the final control, and it is my duty to inform you that we have wonderful communications with the final control. So finally, I think our radio woes are over, and we can continue to traverse Arathusa with not any fear at all. They are now crossing the road into Simbambalai. Let us continue going forward. We will head down to the south shortly. Tingana was around here yesterday. That's kind of why we came here, other than just to check what's going on with the radios. This is a really nice wildebeest sighting. They don't normally stand for us for this length of time. Be interesting to know when they catch our scent, because the wind is coming from left to right onto them, if they become afraid. Marvelous. They're having a very nice breakfast out here. They don't seem to be particularly nervous, and also, you know, again, their strength, if you look at them, they're very good condition, of course, which means their minds and bodies are sharp, and that means that they're not too worried about the lions at the moment, because they're able to run away, they're able to sort of fight the lions off, and the lions are just completely distracted by the ineptness of the buffalo and their ability not to deal with these difficult conditions. Rebecca, could you give me just a communications check to make sure that you are in fact still with us? There we go, she is still with us, everybody. Now, Fuzzman Sparkles, you're wondering about birth and when these chaps are going to give birth. Well, almost now. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the first Wildebeest and calf at some stage soon. I'm just trying to see if I can't find a very obvious... Well, I mean, they're all fairly obviously pregnant. That one there moving towards us, a pregnant cow. And you can just see they're pregnant because they're very heavy in the belly. Excellent. Let us move along. See what else we can see, Brian. We did see one elephant bull, everybody, but he disappeared in some very thick bush, so we didn't bother to stay with him. Right here. What else does this cut line between two reserves, between two worlds, have to offer us? Brian, are you a bit chilly?
A little bit.
Brian's a bit chilly, everybody. He's only brought one jacket. He normally... Waterbuck! Yes, hello. Come on, give us a chew. Come on. Yes. No. I love the chalky little eyeliner that they have above their eyes. This waterbuck looks a little bit skittish. Maybe it has seen Tingana. I suspect the wildebeest would be a little bit more upset than they are behind us. Maybe he's just seen the wildebeest. She has just seen the wildebeest. You know how you can tell it's a female, Brian?
I do know how.
By the eyeshadow.
Yes.
Yes.
The shape of the fur.
The shape of the fur and the eyeshadow, exactly. Yes, males have slightly less eyeshadow on, and well, the fur is
more scraggy.
the fur is a little more scraggly. We are, of course, talking rubbish, everybody. The males have got horns. This one has no horns. Just show us that it has no horns, Brian, just above its head there. Yeah, there you see. No horns at all. Well done. Heart-shaped nose. I think it's just watching the wildebeest. Right, good, marvellous, excellent. Carry on. Here we go. There's actually quite a lot out here this time of the day. Comms check, Rebecca, please. It's amazing. Full communications. Not sure what's happening with the Nkuhuma pride at the moment, but if they do anything of any note whatsoever, we'll hand you over to them. There, I think, everybody, is a lesser spotted eagle. Now, I suspect many of you wouldn't have seen the lesser spotted eagle, so while Brian trains his camera on it as it flies behind a bush, oh, there it goes. Let me just put the binoculars onto it. Do you see the windows on its what are those things that it uses to fly?
Feathers.
Feathers, wings. Well, those windows of white on its wings are often an indication that it is a lesser spotted eagle as opposed to a tawny. It wasn't a Wahlberg's, its tail was too fat. Now, I don't know how many of you have had the lesser spotted eagle on your bird lists, but I think that was one. I'll give it to you. And they, of course, are migratory birds and differentiated from the greater spotted eagle, I think, by a smaller size. Now, just got to make sure we don't drive into elephant plains here, which I don't think we're going to. I think we turn south just over here. There are some impala, Brian. Our cup runneth deeply over. Now, many of your viewers are telling me that's interesting. Nothing about impala. You're not telling me. You're telling me about the chestnut, and that the chestnut is a throw over to the reduction of the number of toes to, of course, I think they've only got 3 inside the hoof there. That's interesting. I'm just slightly suspicious of that because it's above the wrist joint. So it must be. If it's above the wrist joint, it must be a reduction in which bone? Maybe the carpal bone. Maybe the carpal bones? No, but those would be in the wrist. Anyway, that's very interesting. Thank you very much for that information. I will continue some research into the chestnut. Those chaps have just put their fur out now because it's a little bit cold. I thought maybe they were a bit mangy, but I don't think they are. I think they've just stood their fur up in order to reduce the chilliness of the breeze blowing over them. It's a rather special fleece, that, isn't it? Do you think you can describe I nearly said a goat, an impala, as having a fleece? No, probably only a sheep.
Cold impala looks fleecy.
It does look fleecy. And of course these are the goats of the bush, everyone. This is like a wild goat. It is a browser and grazer. I'm not sure that it eats cardboard though, or plastic. Roger, one of the main reasons, of course, that these animals are so successful is that they do not have a favorite food group. Roger wanted to know about their favorite food group. They eat whatever is available. As long as they have water, they can eat browse or graze with equal success. They can eat marula fruits, and they do eat marula fruits and various other things. They will sometimes suck a few bones, and they maintain their health because they do not have to eat, graze or browse exclusively. So whatever's available, their favorite food will be whatever's available at whatever particular time of year it might be. Now that young male, of course, is also 1 year old. Right, Stefan Winterboer has got something else I think he wishes to show you. We're going to turn south very shortly.
You know, Mother Nature is a wonderful, wonderful thing. This rather nondescript plant has the most amazing feature. This plant is called Djuma by the local Shangaan tribe and is used in traditional medicine, used widely in traditional medicine. Only grows here. And this is how big the plant gets, but have a look at what grows under it. An elephant kindly excavated one of them for us. And have a look at this. This is a tuber that is growing underneath that little plant. Isn't this incredible? Massive, eh? They get to about double this size. Now I know Djuma for being used in a potion or I don't know what do you call it, but a drink for pregnant women to give healthy pregnancies, but also in an effort to help women conceive. So this is used widely in the southern part of the Kruger National Park for that, but I'm told that it is used in almost all traditional medicines in this particular area, where they use it as a binding agent for various compounds, for various different root mixtures and compounds. They'd use it as a binding mixture. Isn't that incredible? It's been eaten here. This was probably done by the elephant that excavated it, but it's being chewed on pretty much non-stop. Let's have a look here. By a bunch of different rodents. That looks like a mouse. Here's some porcupine. And as this lies here in the bush, it's being utilized by almost everything. I just find that just such an incredibly awesome story. And just coming from something so small. Now you get two different kinds. One is white on the inside, the other one is red. So let's see which one this is most likely. Yeah, that reddish color that you can see there, or the reddy color there, is definitely from that plant. And very juicy, I must be honest with you. I think if we had to go inside that plant, we'd actually be able to see. Now Dina, you've asked, do they use the tuber or the leaves for the medicinal purposes? Dina, it would almost certainly be the tuber. Although leaves out here are second to roots and root bark in terms of the medicinal properties, by far and wide, all the goodness is lying in that juice that hopefully we'll see coming out there now. There we go, you can see it running down my fingers. All the goodness lies in that juice there, and that's where most of the compounds will be stored and concentrated, would be in this root. Has a very potatoey type smell and no noticeable, it doesn't have a bad taste at all. Ooh. Now, Winter Prison, you just asked, is this the root of a tiny plant? Absolutely, I'll actually take you back to that. So this massive root that you see over here, this tuber, is the tuber, or is the root system of the plant that I'll go and show you now. This is the plant here. This tiny little plant that I'm holding in my fingers here, that massive thing that we were just with, that is the tuber or the root of this little plant, known locally as Djuma, D-E-M-A. Amazing, eh? wipe off my tool. Let me show you another amazing thing here. This piece of cheesy looking bone is the skull of a buffalo. But uniquely, the skull of this buffalo has had the boss ripped off or chewed off by probably a hyena. Now, you can see over here, this is where the eyes are, one an eye. This is where the nose came out towards you there. So one eye there, one eye there. The nose would have been here towards your screen. The boss and the horn, that's the horn on the one side. And the horn on the other side would have sloped out like that. And then this would have had that mass of boss over the top. That's now been chewed out and has left us the chance to see how thick the covering of bone is on the top of that buffalo skull. That is at least, you can see there, my fingers width deep. And I never actually knew that they were covered in so many chambers. That's incredible. And that's obviously what gives this particular buffalo the ability to bash heads with one another. And that's how they fight. They bump heads with one another. Protects the brain. This is the brain case over here. Amazing. And you can see inside there. Now, I am told that James has a live buffalo to show you, and he can then show you what this looks like in real life.
These buffalo are now heading into the west. We are on the Elephant Plains boundary, so those Elephant Plains buffalo, again, we've got allowed to look in there, so just be quiet about it. But it's a small breeding herd of buffalo and doing what we've been seeing the buffalo doing, and mercifully not doing what I said they weren't doing, and that is eating grass. You can see they're eating leaves from combretum trees full of tannins and things. So the buffalo, of course, do not have the digestive systems to really cope with excessive amount of tannin, and so they're not looking quite as healthy as the Wildebeests. Are they, Brian?
No.
No, they are not.
Not at all.
Now there is some sort of sighting going on in Arathusa, everybody, but I cannot figure out what it is yet. So it's quite an interesting thing. So we're on the radio, I can hear the Game Drive channel sort of sometimes, and it's a little bit like as a human being when you've got a smell, you can smell something, and so you head towards it, but because you can't really accurately predict where it is, it's a bit of hit and miss. So we're trying to sort of drive closer to where the sound is coming from, and hopefully we'll figure out what sighting it is and where it is. It could easily be on Elephant Plains. But in the meantime, we're managing to find quite a lot of good plains game. We've seen wildebeests, we've seen zebras and impalas. We did see some kudu, but they ran off. And now a breeding herd of browsing buffalo. That is many bees, Brian. Brian, a breeding herd of browsing buffaloes.
Wonderful.
Yes. They're a very obvious cow. Now, I'm not sure what kind of a skull Steph showed you. I know it was a buffalo. I'm not sure if it was male or female. But the female buffalo skull, not nearly as thick around the front as the males, and that's because the females, a bit like human beings, they tend to fight less. They don't butt heads. They sort out their differences with conversation, Brian. Hello, Junkie. You want to know how thick a human skull is? Well, I haven't ever dissected a human skull, but, Junkie, as far as I'm aware, a human skull is about 3 millimeters thick. 3 to 5 millimeters thick. And it'll vary throughout its, depending on which part of the skull you're on. But interestingly, the front of the skull and the back of the skull, I suppose, will thicken in males, or male human beings, that is, men, and also in those who bash their heads quite a lot. So you'll find a boxer or a martial artist or a rugby player or a gridiron footballer and probably sort of an ice hockey player will certainly get a thickening of the skull because of repeated bashing. And that happens also to buffalo, it happens to giraffe as well. So those who are often bashing their heads will get a thickened skull. I'm not much of a head basher myself, so I imagine mine not to be too thick. I used to get horribly concussed playing the great game of rugby football. No, Rebecca, not a head banger, that is something else. A head banger gets sore neck muscles and migrainous headaches. That was me looking disparaging everybody at Rebecca. Rebecca says that's how I look at her every day. Let's head across to Taylor and find out what the Nkuhumas are doing at the moment.
Now we're trying to catch up with the Nkuhuma pride again, but they're being very sneaky this morning as they're moving through a drainage system, and it's proving quite difficult to try and keep up with them. We try to loop around and then they change direction again, but Rexon is on them. But now we just need to try and find a way back in. And of course, it is very, very, very windy out here. I can't even hear myself. We're just going to try and find our way back in. Let me just see if Rexon's perhaps looking for me. Right. Go along this bumpy section. So I'm just checking vehicle tracks just to see exactly where Rexon has gone in again. And that's the problem when these lions move through these drainage systems. It's almost impossible to keep up with them because they join each other at all sorts of angles. Sometimes the banks are too steep to go through, so you can't follow them the same route. You've got to try and make your own route around, which is tough. But luckily we've got a short wheel-based vehicle, so it makes it a little bit easier for us. I think Rexon will let us know when he can hear us.
Station area, we find this Ngala. Only eastern side of the drainage line, west of.
Sorry, I can't hear anything, Rebecca. Sorry, can you go again, Rebecca?
Far break.
It's so windy that I cannot hear anything that is being said.
Follow that tracks.
Ah, there we go. Grant, do you want to know how old the cubs are? I'll answer that in a moment. Sure. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where the lions are. Okay, let's check if there's fresh vehicle tracks. Freshish. Now, Grant, sorry, from New Zealand, you'd like to know how old the lion cubs are. Well, they're aging quite quickly, and I find that this is something that we as guides have a bad habit of doing, is we forget that they age and we keep calling them the same sort of age for about a year. But the oldest cubs are about 6 months old now, and well, the next set is 5 months, and the set prior to that is only 4 months. It seems they only had a month apart, which is quite nice, but you can clearly see the difference now between the 6-month-old cubs. They're much larger than the rest of the pride. I think we're getting warmer, and at least it's not so windy out here either. My goodness, it was howling when we were out in the open. We're just gonna follow this road down, and hopefully we're going to see Rexon's vehicle. Alright, let's have a look here. Oh, there we go. I can see Rexon's vehicle now. Whether we're going to be able to fit all the vehicles here, I'm not sure. We'll have to go and investigate. Oh, thank goodness. It seems as though they're sitting down now. Whew. That would have been a tough one to keep following them again. Sneak through here. Right, let's... What we'll go... We'll go over that. We'll try and find a little gap here. Yes, okay, I'm going to go around all the way to the other side because I think we'll have a look at the cubs. Oh, they're sleeping, look. There they are. All hiding away from the terrible weather that we're experiencing today. Oh, isn't that precious? All the little cubs huddled up together to try and keep nice and warm. And that's something we haven't really been seeing over the last couple of weeks because it's been so hot. It's quite nice to see them when they huddle up like that. Now I must tell you, this morning I only counted 7 cubs. I don't know where the 8th one is, and the last time I saw the Nkuhumas, all 8 cubs were around. But we're also missing 2 lionesses, so maybe one of the cubs could be with one of the other lionesses. I'm uncertain. But we won't know until the entire pride is back together again. But remember, I'm not saying that anything has happened because I have absolutely no idea. I'm only really just speculating. Is that lion cubs only really have about a 60% chance of making it towards adulthood. So the fact that we've seen 8 of them get so far in life already has been quite spectacular. We'll just have to see what happens. Let me just count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I can still only see 7 cubs. There's another one. You can probably only count 6, but there's another cub that's being groomed by a lioness off to the far left, but it's very difficult to see because they're behind some trees. But we'll keep positive though. And hopefully we will find the rest, the one missing little cub, when the whole pride reunites again. But to me, that is just absolutely precious. Now, we were chatting about how Brent and Jamie said that they saw the lions trying to take down a hippo quite late last night in front of where they live. They said they obviously weren't successful though. And Anna Marie, you were wondering if they made a kill. So I think other than that attempt where they did try to take down that hippo, I don't think they were successful at all. And what we will do is once we've done over here, we'll probably go back around to where we've been seeing them. And we had that buffalo carcass on Wahlberg's junction with Twin Dams, and maybe we'll go and have a look around there. Now, Amber, you're also wondering how many lions it would take to take down a hippo. That would depend on the size of the hippo. If it's that bull that we've been seeing in the pan where the dam cam is, well then, it's quite a young boy, but strong and not small. I reckon a few more lions. I reckon if they had about 10 lions, they'd probably be able to bring it down. That would be a fair amount of size because that hippo is so strong. It can't necessarily run away quickly like maybe something like a kudu or a buffalo could. Because there's so much surface area on a hippo, you might find that more than one lion would jump on the back, and that would of course slow it down. But to try and get that hippopotamus down onto the ground and to try and suffocate it is a completely different story. So it's a very, very difficult meal. And I believe my parents are actually just in the Kruger National Park, and they said they just missed a male lion taking down a baby hippo. Now, Charles, you were also thinking, and I love these questions about the hippos, you were saying would they be able to take down a hippo in the water? Once again, it depends on their size, and I suppose it's also got to do with their health condition. If it was a hippo that was weakened severely by the drought conditions, it would probably be much easier to take down. Oh, look how sweet this is. My favorite little girl getting in there to try and keep nice and warm. Now, I have seen it before where lions will go in the water to go and sort of fish their prey out, so whether it's a kudu or something inside, but up in this area it doesn't seem to be as common. You know, the lions aren't as well adapted to the water like the lions in the Delta and Botswana are. Obviously they have to live with the conditions of crossing channels every single day of their life, so they become quite used to it. These lions, well, I've seen it where they'd prefer to walk the scenic way around than cross a big puddle of water. But that's just the lions in this particular area. But they may, if they were desperate and they were hungry, and there was a hippo in the shallows that was quite weak or maybe injured, they definitely go for it and try and drag it out. But at the moment we haven't really seen the Nkuhumas desperately trying to eat anything, seen as though there's such an abundance of prey around that have been weakened. But that's going to change. Just wait until we have proper rain and all the grass has come through quite nicely. So I reckon around February, these lions are going to have a challenge ahead of them. But it's only fair. It's only fair that the herbivores and the prey species also have a chance to come back again. And that's what's so wonderful about nature, is that everything has its day and has its chance to make a comeback. And this is a really great spot that they've got here. They're hiding in and amongst these smaller shrubs, which is providing lots of shelter from the wind. It's quite unpleasant. And if it gets any worse, then they can just dip down into the drainage line, well, and then they'll be out of the wind completely. Now, I do feel terribly sorry for Steph today as he tries to move around, and with all this wind, that must be a little bit daunting, not being able to hear what's around you. And I think we're going to leave these lions, and I'm going to go and have a look and see if I can find the rest of the pride. But as you know, I need to get out of this thicket now, so let's go back across to Steph and see how he's facing the wind this morning.
It is a little bit daunting around here because of the wind, but what the wind has brought is now total cloud cover. So this morning, when we started the show, we could just see the blue sky with these clouds scudding over. They're now almost totally covered the sky. In actual fact, it's just getting thicker as we speak. It's incredible. And of course, it's getting more and more gloomy and more ominous, which is the best. To be quite honest, this is what the wet season brings here. It brings these clouds and it brings this dynamic weather that we enjoy so much. But you can see this thick bush that we've got in front of us here. This is the type of bush normally we just walk through. But on a day like today, I absolutely will not walk through bush like this, and it's because we can't hear what's going on in there. There's a lot of movement, the trees are making a lot of movement, and so animals' movements are concealed behind that movement. And then you've also got the added problem of having too much wind, and that sort of masks any noises, growls, their horns hitting some branches, snapping trees. And so what you want to do is you want to be keeping to areas like we've got over my shoulder here, which are wide open and allow you the chance to see straight through it. So we're avoiding thick bush areas today, and basically we're just walking on the edge of these thickets, trying to find you some interesting things to show you. And so far so good. Well, here we go. Here's something interesting to show you. This tree that you see here, I'll go and stand next to it in a second, is a beautiful example of a milkwood tree. Now, milkwoods are one of James Henry's favorite trees, and they are one of my favorites as well, because they get this beautiful berry that comes out at Christmas time. If you want to see, bless you, VM. In case any of you heard what that was VM sneezing, sounding like a buffalo. It's this beautiful foliage. Isn't it the wood of this tree can't be used for too much, but it is this beautiful green foliage that has this yellow midrib, and that's how you can identify it, with that yellow midrib down the leaf, and then that teardrop shaped leaf. It gets these bunches of berries that you can come and pick off around Christmas time and eat. Very tasty, sweet berries. Oh, beautiful tree. Alright, let's carry on. While we look for more creepy crawlies, I think Mr. Henry has got a creepy crawly to show you as well. We'll catch up in a little bit.
Right, everybody, we are on Arathusa, as I said, and there is a dung beetle there. And what I want to do is get out, sorry, I'm just in your way there, get out and show you how brilliant it is at orientating itself. Now, don't worry about it because they're so clever that it will figure out where it's going. So you pick it up like this. And this, of course, is dung, obviously. And the beetle is going to push the dung in exactly the right direction. See now, it stands on top of the dung and figures out which way it should be facing. So if I turn it like that, no, this one's not so good. Normally what they do is stand on top of the dung pile. There we go, figures out where it's going, and then it starts to move. It's really quite clever. I'm slightly worried that that was baboon dung. But I subtly smelt my hand, and we seem to be okay. I think it's not baboon dung. Anyway, there it goes. It will go and find probably a mate. In fact, I suspect this is probably the female who's made that ball, and she's going to go and bury it somewhere and put her egg in it, or she would have laid her egg already. There you can see it turning around every so often on top of the ball, orientating. There we go. Now she's either prepared a hole somewhere or she will still dig one, but she knows where she's going. It's just amazing. It must be the most frustrating process, pushing a ball like that. It falls, she falls down, it falls down. Can you still see it, Brian? There, she's found the hole. Can you still see it? Let me, can you see it now? In the way. How's that? So she's found her hole, everybody, and she's now burying it. So she's digging from underneath. We haven't found any impala lambs just yet. I can just hear some impala calling off to the right hand side. Isn't that cool? So that dung ball is going to go under the ground there. Can you see the soil moving there? That is so cool. Now I can't answer any questions if you do have them, I'm afraid. But while we just watch this sort of unfold, to tell you that this is now definitely a female because she's burying the ball. The males don't bury the balls. They make the balls and then attract letties with them. They take them off and they mate and eat a good meal of dung. And then she'll go off back to the dung pile, make a ball like that, lay the egg in the middle, and then roll it off to a spot like this where it is buried. That is fantastic. It's disappearing ever so slowly. While the wind blows and the Diedrich's cuckoo goes. Can you see it still? Yep. It's almost gone. So she's turning it over inside, I think probably to give it a covering of soil. Now she's prepared this hole. This is not a new hole, she's made it there. It's gone now. I have never seen this before. In all my years of watching dung beetles, I've never seen them actually bury a ball like this. Can you still see it, Brian, or is it gone?
Slightly see it.
Just see it. How fantastic. She's using her spade-like front part of her head. It was elephant dung, thankfully. I can actually see the dung pile where they're gathering it. Marvellous. Well, let's leave that there. The dung pile's just up ahead there on the road, over here. There we go. Very new dung ball being made here. And of course, Brian, you can see next to my lovely green laces, can't you? Yes. Marvellous. Let's press on. We're right next to Arathusa camp at the moment. Brian and I are probably going to pull in there for some breakfast, I think, because it's a bit cold out here. Yeah, let me plug myself back in. There we go. And on we trundle. I'm trying to avoid these beetles, which are not very good at judging traffic. Stacy, you're wondering why I was nervous about it being baboon dung. It would be bad, Stacy, because baboon dung... All I got was... Blair. Chelsea. Chelsea, you're wondering about... Right, okay. Chelsea, you're wondering why it would be bad if it was baboon dung. Chelsea, it would be bad if it was baboon dung because baboon dung stinks. It's disgusting smelling. The baboon is an omnivore. It's not shy of a bit of carrion and meat. And, well, it just smells foul. But elephant dung does not. Rebecca, I think you may have spoken there, but it went deep. That's interesting that it's been so good up until now. Alright, we got which I think means Link Taylor something. Let's go and find out what she's got.
We've come across a very gloomy scene this morning that consists of a dead knobthorn tree with a number of vultures. Now, I wonder where they're off to. You can see they're all leaving us now. There were quite a few of them on the tree, but we're just down to 4 as they slowly started to disappear. Perhaps there's another carcass around that they're off to go and feed on. I don't think that they're going to be doing too much flying today in the sense of reaching the high altitudes that they're normally able to get to. With this cloud cover and wind and the size of these birds, I think it's going to be quite tricky for them. So perhaps they're just going to hang around all the carcasses that are around Wildebeest Dam. Now, I've also got some other good news for you. We heard a male lion roaring just as we were leaving those lions. Now, it was difficult because it was so windy, and we know that the wind muffles sound quite a bit, but it sounded like it was coming back in this direction. So let's go back and check where that old carcass was, where James was trying to get into yesterday afternoon, and have a look around there. So we're just passing the dam now. We're going to go across the dam wall. Oh, vultures. And I also need to hold on to my hat. I apologize if you hear some strange noises. Let's see. Now, when he did roar, I had a look at the lionesses, but they didn't seem to show any interest in him at all. They were quite keen to just have a snooze. Okay, let's have a look-see. Just check here very carefully. Oh, there's some impalas coming down though. Let's say hello to them. Hello, impala. Just a small herd, not a particularly big group like we have been seeing. And no babies just yet. And I feel sorry for that young man who's in front, because unfortunately when the new lambs come around, those little ones are going to be kicked out and they're going to have to go off and join, well, find a bachelor group. You're very brave, taking the lead. See how she's now stopped as she's reaching the top of that incline. Have a look around. And that's something very similar that we do when we are walking and we're out on foot. Is when you're down in a drainage system and you're coming out of it, you move up very slowly, and just before you get to the top, you stop and you listen, just to make sure that there's nothing up and above you. And then, well, then you carry on. Lucky for them, though, it's nice and open, and we know how fantastic the eyesight of the impala is. So they're really the lucky ones today. They don't have to just rely on their sense of smell and their hearing, because we know that, for instance, animals like elephants, animals like buffalo, even a kudu is going to be slightly disadvantaged with all this wind today, but not the impala and the zebra. They'll still be jumpy, but they rely on their eyesight a lot more. But let's continue further. Let's see. We're not far from where that old Carcass site is. Sorry, I'm just moving my head. Sometimes I pull it too far down when we're driving to prevent it from blowing off of my head. And then sometimes it's so low that you can't even see my eyes. But we're not going very fast here. We're going quite slowly, in fact. That doesn't sound good. Have I got a flat tire? No. What was that? Maybe I drove over a stone. Now, I keep making David check all my tires because we've been doing some serious off-roading today. Now, Kathy from Tennessee, you're wondering if the behavior of the pregnant impala will change just before they give birth, and you're quite correct in that. What will happen? There is a lion footprint. Can you see the lion footprint down there, David?
Yeah.
Is it? No, that's fine. Let me reposition. I just wanted to double check that it was indeed a lion footprint and not a hyena footprint. Let's have a look and see who it is. Who's been walking here? Those look big. Those look very big. Sorry, Kathy, I'll get to your question. You can see it's quite difficult. Let me jump out quickly. Oh, I've got to change around. I want to double check and see who it was. And I must say I'm very stiff from the running club yesterday. Rebecca, I don't know how you're feeling. Where is that footprint? So I'm going to go to this one because I think this one's a little bit clearer, if that's okay, David. Now, it's big. My hand is just slightly longer than it, but it's not wider than it. So straight away, I'm able to see that it is as wide as it is long. That means it's a male lion track. Now, I don't remember seeing these footprints when we came through here initially, and they look like they're actually on top of some of our tire tracks. And I wonder if this wasn't this male that was calling, and maybe he's come down already, crossed the drainage system. This is quite interesting. See, there's also been a lot of wind, so there is some sand that's blown over it, but that could have just been from 5 minutes of wind. You get plugged in quickly. Okay, let's just very quickly check the last spot. Maybe we get lucky. So sorry, Kathy, let me get back to your question. You're very right in saying or thinking that their behavior does change. So what happens is that when just before they give birth, they're going to go off and they're going to find a secluded spot. They actually leave the herd, and then they'll give birth. And they'll wait a couple of days in the thicker vegetation to try and conceal that young lamb until it's really able to run around on its legs quite nicely and is fit enough to keep up with the rest of the herd. But it normally doesn't last too long. It's normally just a couple of days. Now, I think they were going in here. Let me just have a look. I can't remember now. But that's very interesting about those male lion tracks. I didn't see them earlier. I don't want to poke my nose in here because I also saw some vultures sitting in the thicket. They're having a little scan. Now, it doesn't seem like they're in here. I'm going to check because there were 2 entrances, so that's okay. But the other one, we've got to do a bit more of a bundu bash, of course, which is the local word for off-roading. So I think we're going to have to go back across to Steph, and hopefully, while you do that, I'll be able to find this mysterious male lion.
Now, wandering around over here in the bush, trying not to bump into buffalo and not bump into the lion that Taylor is tracking is, of course, a difficult thing on a windy day like today, but it does allow us to explore what is happening over here. And one of these new things that I have in my backpack to share with you is a stethoscope. And this is something that you can very easily do from your own homes. This is obviously just a normal stethoscope. You can buy them over the counter in most in most chemists or pharmacies all over the place. And what you do with this is you walk up to a tree that looks like it's got some activity. Oh, look here. Here is a prime example of a pill millipede. And you can see why they call it a pill millipede. When you disturb them, they turn into these little round pellets. That is a millipede, much the same as the other millipedes that we're finding all over the place at the moment. Isn't that awesome? Coming out from underneath this rotting stump. Right, so now back to what you do with these things is you put them in your ears and you listen to the inside of these trees. And if there's significant insect activity, you can hear it. In this particular case, what you'd be listening to is borer beetles making a chewing noise. You'd have to move it around to find one of their tunnels. But I tell you, once you've found one, they're unmistakable for what you can hear. I can't hear anything at the moment. Vacant stare that I have. And I better put my earpiece back in my ear in case Rebecca is busy telling me something of vital importance. But basically, you can do this from your home. Walk up to any tree. Trees with a smooth bark or a thin bark are the best. Dead trees obviously give you the most action from a what you can hear point of view. But just try that at a point. Take a stethoscope, listen to the trees in your garden. You'd be surprised at what noises come out of these giant old pieces of wood. Awesome. It gives us some time to JT, you want to know what else I carry in my backpacks on my walk? Well, JT, I've got a water bottle. I have a stethoscope. I have a tarpaulin for when it rains. I have some paracord for the tarpaulin. And then I have my bag of tricks. Inside I have a wood saw which helps us with setting up little satellite camps and gives me sticks to basically walk around on. I have a selection of fire steels to make fire with. This is a new one at the moment that I have that I'm playing with. Made with a slightly different steel. So this one make some fire with it. So I have a selection of these fire steels in here. I then have let's unpack this for you and see what else I have inside of here. I change it from time to time, to be honest. I have some hand wash and some other fire making thingies, and then a whole bag of headache tablets, matches, some sunscreen, plasters, yeah, a variety of some rehydrate in case we get dehydrated out here. So basically that's what I carry in my backpack there, a selection of different goodies and tricks to keep us entertained. We do also have a backpack on Herbert, and he has the more functional of all the things. He carries the first aid kit. He also carries some more water and a bunch of spare camera paraphernalia in case we get a breakdown out here that we need to service. So some more batteries and some gaffer tape and some bunch of goodies. So that's that. Backpack 101, really. All right. On that note, I'm going to send you over to James, who's got an update for you.